I also want to pick your mind about the recent budget announcement, because people were expecting a lot in terms of maybe rationalization, in terms of long-term capital gain or short-term capital gain. On the contrary, we saw that our honorable finance minister actually revised the rate of STT.
Yeah.
So, what's your views on that?
Yeah, I think frequent changes in taxes, especially when it comes to capital markets, which we have seen over the last several years, right from when Mr. Jaitley introduced long-term capital
Right.
gains. Prior to that, we had STTs, right? And then last year STTs were revised, and this year again STTs got revised. Also last year the capital gains tax also moved up, so the long-term moved up from 10% to 12.5%. Plus cess plus surcharge, and short term moved from to 20% plus cess plus surcharge, so almost like 25% kind of number. Frequent changes in taxation obviously always gives investors no clarity. It brings about a lot of kind of instability in terms of how the taxes will look like
Right, they're not
going
able to
forward,
predict,
right?
yeah.
So while STT is a small number, it's a rounding off. Broadly, the rationale behind why this would have been done is to desist retail investors from participating in the speculative market. So I think the reason was to move the retail investors out of derivative market.
I see.
But in turn, probably you are making it unattractive for the FIIs also. Probably, I'm not very sure. So yeah, I think that was I think the only negative news for at least people like us who are in capital markets,
Right.
that these frequent changes, and then when the long-term capital gain or short-term capital gain is not being tinkered, and STT is being moved up,
Right.
so the transaction cost moves up, and that always will eat into some part of your
Right.
return, right? So but apart from that, I think it's a very good budget, honestly. I think the fiscal prudence is something which really excites all of us in capital markets, because it will make the country very strong.
Right.
I think we have achieved 4.4% of fiscal deficit,
Right.
going towards 4.3 and then 4.2, so on so forth. Debt to GDP, when we are talking about US with 130% debt to GDP, we are at 56% debt to GDP, going to 55% debt to GDP. It might look very simple stuff, but it has a very positive impact in terms of long-term
Rating of the
balance
economy.
sheet of our country, and eventually it will then attract a lot of foreign investors, FDIs. When they see that there is a lot of fiscal prudence, they are more comfortable to go into geographies where these kind of strong balance sheets are there, right? So they're on the path. Apart from that, I think they continue to invest in nation building, right? So they've increased investments in building roads and ports and metros from 11 lakh crores to 12 lakh crores. So consistently they've been adding a lakh crore every year to build a very strong infrastructure, which also will help in nation building. They are investing a large part of money into logistics and defense. I think these three big items, one is security for the country, which also will become a very big export item due course of time, defense, right? Logistics and infrastructure. They continue to do the capex in this space. So these are all the positive things. I think the outlay on promoting electronic manufacturing services to the extent of 40,000 crores, again a very, very big positive from exports point of view. So these are some of the highlights, broadly very, very positive. It may not be news headline items, but it will strengthen our country and our macroeconomics over longer term perspective. So STT is a small detractor for small set of players in the market, but otherwise I think it's broadly in the right direction.